Welcome students. I am Professor Naval Kishore from School of Management Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. You have already learnt about organizational structure, types of the organizational structure, principles of organization. Today, I am going to discuss about a span of control. A span of control means that how many person can be supervised by one person. That means a manager can supervise how many person. Because supervision must be efficient, strong, and it must be carried out minutely. Because if you supervise activities very closely, there is a probability that you get the quality in that particular activity. So, the span of control should neither be too wide nor too narrow. Ideal span may depend upon the nature of job as well as requirement of the supervision activity. Now let us learn about factors affecting a span of control. The first is nature of the work. If the work is simple and repetitive, obviously more people can be supervised by one manager. But if the work is not that much repetitive, lot of new activities are to be done. For example, if there is a research and development activities, obviously that requires to be supervised at a very, very close level. So based on the nature of the work, a span of supervision may be decided. Next is ability of the manager. Now everybody has his or her capacity to supervise the people. Depending upon his leadership, depending upon his decision making, depending upon his time, depending upon his experience, so on and so forth. Based on that, a manager can supervise the persons who are working under him. Next is efficiency of the organization. Now, if the workers are very efficient, if they are very skilled, maybe the more persons may be supervised by one manager. But if the workers are not that much efficient, if they are not that much skilled, obviously again there you need to supervise them closely. Next is time available for supervision. Now how much time the manager is having? Because you all know that if the higher level of the activities, for example, planning, organizing, directing, leading, motivating, etc., being carried out by the manager, the repetitive or routine activities may be carried out at the soft floor level. Next is ability of the subordinates. How much the subordinates are competent. If they are more competent, obviously they will do the job quickly, they will understand the job quickly, they may perform the job quickly. But if they are not competent, obviously it may take time. So, supervision also would be done accordingly. Next is degree of decentralization. See, decentralization, if the activities are decentralized, in that case, based on the various structure of that particular department, supervision can take place. Because decentralized activities may be carried out at different steps by different manager or supervisors or deputy managers or whosoever is involved in supervising that particular activity. Now let us come to the organization chart. See, organization chart is a diagrammatic representation of important activities of the organization, where the major functions and their relationships are reflected. Broadly, it is a blueprint of the organization where the functions, lines of authority and various positions are depicted so that it becomes easier for all those concerns to understand. It is a bird's eye view of the relationship between different departments, divisions, as well as relationship between executives and subordinates at various levels. So it also depicts the positions as well as relationships. Characteristics of an organization chart. The first, it is a diagrammatic presentation. If you have visited even for your servicing for your vehicle, four-wheeler, there also you find that in the service station it is written there whosoever is the manager, who is the supervisor, who is the foreman, who is the workers, and who is reporting to whom and who is getting direction from whom. So it is a diagrammatic presentation. Next is shows principal lines of authority in the organization. So the lines of authority, that means who will direct to whom and who is under command to whom. That you will get, that understanding you will get from the organization chart. Next is shows the interplay of various functions and relationships. Now who will perform what and how that relationship works in that particular organization, that may be also depicted through this organization chart. And channels of communication. That means which department they are involved about that particular activities, so the whole range of the communication may flow through that particular department. Now let us come to the advantages of organization chart. It is a tools of administration. Tools of administration means when graphically you show about the role of the managers, you show about the role of the supervisor, you show about the role of the foreman, you show about the role of shop floor workers. In that case, now it becomes easier for you to administer the activities in that organization. Next, authority and responsibility relationship. As you all know that who is authorized to carry out what functions, and if somebody is authorized to carry out particular function, he or she may also be responsible to get that work done. Therefore, it also reflects the authority and responsibility relationship. Next is reliable blueprint of arrangement of positions. Obviously, in an organization, there are various positions. There may be manager, there may be deputy manager, there may be supervisor, there may be foreman, there may be the workers, there may be departmental head, etc., etc. So this chart, they reflect a blueprint where all the positions are being reflected. Next is valuable guide. See, if the new person joins in your organization, in that case, it becomes easier for him or her to understand the whole structure of the organization, because when the graphical presentation is provided to him, it becomes easier for him or her to understand. Next, framework of personnel classification and evaluation system. It works as a framework where the people are classified in the different departments. How their work is going to be evaluated, that is also being reflected through the chart, and in that case it becomes easier for evaluate the system as well as the who is involved in doing what job in what department. That would be reflected. Next, improvement. See, what you can do when the whole organizational chart is being provided to you, you can find out, you can identify if there is any inconsistencies or if there is any deficiency in a particular area of the operation of that particular work, and then you can deal with those inconsistencies and deficiency, and you may try to improve them, you may try to sort out them so that those deficiencies may not occur in future. Limitations of organization chart. See, it shows only formal relationship, but sometimes informal relationships may also be very important in an organization. So it fails to depict the informal relationship. Next, does not show the degree of authority. See, it shows you the authority and responsibility, but one manager would be responsible to what extent? Somebody would be accountable to what extent? That is not depicted by the chart. So, authority may be there, but the degree of authority may not be reflected. Similarly, accountability may be there, but to what extent a person is accountable, that may not be mentioned in the organizational chart. There may be rigidity also, because once you are showing in a graph, now the person may be involved in carrying out one activity, and obviously he will be insisting to do that much activities only, so it may lead to rigidity in the organization. Sometimes there may be confusion and misunderstanding also, because you are showing the various departments. Now, the activities of one department may overlap with the other department. As a result, sometimes there may be misunderstanding as well, and those misunderstandings may create conflicts in that organization. Next, it is reflecting you the supposed relationship, but the actual relationship may vary, because actual relationship will come into the picture when actually you have gone to that organization as an employee and you are working in that organization. Once you perform a particular activity, that actual relationship sometimes may vary than the supposed relationship. Next is organizational manual. See, organizational manual, that includes job descriptions and other information in addition to the charts. It includes factual statements of job contents, particularly reflecting the duties and responsibilities of the employees. It is an authoritative guide to the organizational members. It consists of records of top management decisions, standard practices, procedures, and description of various jobs. That means job descriptions, duties and responsibilities, top management decisions, standard practices, procedures, and description of various jobs. In a nutshell, the various activities of the organization may be provided through the help of organizational manual. Importance of manual. It is a valuable aid to management, because the activities related to that particular department or area may be elaborately depicted in that manual. Next, helps individuals to determine the responsibilities of their jobs and their relationship with other jobs as well. So what if the manual is there? First, as an employee, you know your own responsibility, and you know your own relationship with your boss, with your seniors and juniors, as well as the relationship in the other department of that particular organization. Next, avoids jurisdictional conflicts and overlapping. If the clear-cut written description is there, detailed activities are being written in the manual, that may avoid the conflicts as well as overlapping. Next, helps to make instructions definite. See, if the policies, procedures, etc., are well defined, it becomes easier to instruct for some work. And as a result of clear-cut definition, you may be able to get the work done efficiently. Next, remove misunderstanding. See, if there is any misunderstanding in an organization, that may be removed by going through the manual, because as a part of the employee of that team, of that department, of that organization, you need to follow the manuals, because the manuals you get detailed activities described in that manual, and as a result of going through that manual, the conflict or misunderstanding may be dealt with. Next, the time and energy of the manager may be saved, because the same information may not be repeatedly informed to the different persons, because they may go to the manual, they may refer to the manual, and they may understand the detailed description of the manual. Next, provides uniformity and consistency of procedures and practices. See, once well-defined activities are there, when well-defined procedures, systems are there, that brings uniformity in the organization. And there may be the consistency in the way the work is being performed, practices are being followed, procedures are being followed. Facilitates training of new employees. Obviously you all are aware that when you recruit the new employees, you need to train the new employees. If you have the manual related to the policies, related to the procedures, related to the personnel, that may be related to the promotion of the person, related to the wages, related to the salaries, related to the job condition, etc., etc. Now new employees may get all the information, and it becomes easier to train the new employees. Serve as effective refresher for employees. As I told you, that employees come to know about that particular manuals, and they become aware about that. Next is types of manual. First is policy manual. As the name suggests, it describes the overall policy of the organization. For example, the policy may be the whole range of recruitment and selection policies. So if the policy is personnel policy is there, and under the personal policy you get all those detailed, like how the person should be recruited in that place, how he or she may be selected, how he or she may be provided training, how they may be motivated, how they may be evaluated on what parameters, job performance, how you are going to measure those things. All those things may be the part of personnel policy of the particular organization. Next is operations manual. Here you talk about the procedures, the system, the practices of various activities or department. The way something would be handled in the department, the way some standard has been formulated for the work being carried out by that particular department, though all these activities are mentioned in that operations manual. That means systems, procedures, way of carrying out the activities, standard of that activity, role of persons and relationship in carrying out that particular activities, so on and so forth. Next is organization manuals, rules and regulations manual. So there are two, one is organization manuals, another is rules and regulation manual. Organization manual is for the whole organization, for the whole department, for the whole broad functions of that particular department, etc., etc. Next is rules and regulations manual. Rules and regulations, you all must be aware that every organization has its own set of rules and regulations. For example, if you have joined in Indira Gandhi National Open University, it has a rules for the admission. You have the rules for the counseling sessions. There are rules and regulations for conducting the examinations. There are rules and regulations for continuous assessment, for term and examinations, for awarding you. All those things are there, and based on those rules and regulations, all the students and members of IGNOU, they all are guided. Next is departmental manual. As the name suggests, this is confined to a particular department and whole activities of that department may be mentioned in that manual. Next is advantages of manual. Obviously, you get rules and regulation at one place. Every rules and regulations may be written there, so you can refer it very easily. Next is, if the rules are clear-cut mentioned, the conflict probability of the conflict would be very less. And even if there is a conflict, those conflict may be resolved based on the prescribed rules and regulations of that particular manual. And now, when new employee joins, obviously the standard procedures and practices, they will be learning those standard procedures and practices in shortest possible time, and they become aware about how those procedures, how those practices are being followed in particular organization. Next, enables quick decisions as instruction and policies are stated in depth. Because instruction and policies are clear-cut mentioned, therefore it becomes easier for you to take the decisions. Next is drawbacks of the manual. It is costly and time-consuming process. Obviously, every details are to be written in that manual, so it takes time to prepare the manual for the whole organization, and it is costly also. Next, it may cause rigidity of operations in the organization. Obviously, whatever is written, you need to follow that. Therefore, sometimes it becomes very rigid. Changing of that manual may be very difficult also. Therefore, it leads to rigidity of operations. Next is put on record those relationships which no one would like to see exposed. Sometimes you need to record those aspects also for which others might not like to see there, because that may be unpalatable to them as well. So today you have learned about a span of supervision, you have learned about organizational chart, and you have also learned about manuals of the organization. Various aspects of these three areas you have learned. Thank you very much.